Texas Tech is, at least in the transfer portal noise, they're making some noise and pissing
Where
people.
Where they getting all this money from, Bailey?
That's my next question. Is Sean, Texas Tech apparently has spent the most in the top 5, is spending the most money in the transfer portal, along with Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Texas. Spokesman from On3 or SEC personal staffer says, in theory, Tech fucked the market up for everybody. Sean, what's going on? Go ahead.
This didn't work for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. They tried to do this.
Good point.
And it didn't work. But I don't know what's going on with Texas Tech. For context, Texas Tech gave Stanford's women's softball pitcher like $1 million NIL deal to transfer there. So it's not just football. Like they printing. They got a federal money printing facility down there we don't know about.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Sean, I got sticking on Texas Tech. There's a whole plethora of things we're going to talk about. Their highly coveted general manager, James Blanchard, ended up turning down Notre Dame to stay at Texas Tech. Do you have any thoughts on this? I just see more and more this offseason Texas Tech making noise, and they retain their general manager, which in the NIL era of college football, I think is huge. You've seen, obviously North Carolina with Bill Belichick. He has Michael Lombardi. Stanford just brought in Andrew Luck, and I had a Stanford offensive lineman on this show 2 days ago talking about that and the impact of that. What are your thoughts on Texas Tech retaining their general manager Blanchard from keeping him from going to Notre Dame?
First of all, Blanchard looks like he just got out. Like he's been doing that prison workout for the last 12 months.
Right.
Maybe he's just not Catholic, baby. I mean, Bailey, maybe he just, as high profile as Notre Dame is in football, as a black man, is that really, what I want to – I know Freeman's doing his thing, and it's a big brand. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a big brand. So if you go – but, if Texas Tech – not that Lubbock is a destination spot when you're going on vacation, but
right.
Depending on what you like to do, maybe it's more of that in Lubbock than it is, in South Bend. But
absolutely,
I don't know. It probably came down to money, to be honest. And let me say this: why do you want to be on the back of the bus at Notre Dame if you could be on the front of the bus at Texas Tech?
Right.
Meaning, Notre Dame just played in the Natty. They can't go anywhere but down next year. I mean, anything that doesn't make the national title game is going to be less than what they accomplished this year.
Right.
Whereas if Texas Tech was to win 10 games, man, the way they spending money, hell, they might have a bigger payroll than the Cowboys, after that.
Right. And chat's just letting us know about Lubbock. Let's talk about –
I've been to Lubbock. Ain't nothing there.
You're right. And I got to ask you, sticking on the money, conversation we had earlier, teams that spent the most money, would you put SMU in that boat last year? Because I know SMU had a ton of money in NIL and whatnot, and it seemed to have worked out for them. They played in their conference championship game. I know they lost to Clemson, but
it was money well spent. SMU was not even a dominant factor in the AAC.
Right.
Like when you look at who won those championships, it was Tulane, Houston, UCF, Cincinnati. It wasn't SMU. And to go into a Power Four conference and make it to the title game, I mean, hell, obviously money well spent.
Money well spent indeed. And sticking on that, Texas Tech's NAL Collective founder, Cody Campbell, sold his oil and natural gas company, Double Eagle, for $4.1 billion. Now, we talked about this earlier, where the money's coming from. Not that this matters now because, college football is transitioning to revenue sharing and whatnot, but Texas NIL Collective founder sold his company for $4 billion. Any thoughts?
I mean, when it says collective founder, I mean, that means he's more than just a money guy. That means like he's invested, in Texas Tech athletics. Because
absolutely,
as being the guy that's the head of the collective, I mean, that's all the sports, if I'm not mistaken, with football, of course, being the number one priority. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it looks like, he's going to take his wealth and try and turn Texas Tech football into a national power. We'll see if it can happen. I just would like to see, and listen, I never second-guess a guy that was able to grow a company to being worth $4.1 billion. It
Absolutely.
takes 999 million to get to 1 billion. So
Yes.
4.1 billion is a whole lot of millions.
Yeah. A lot of money.
I would like to see his business plan. Or is he just doing it for love? Or is there a way that he thinks he'll get a return on his investment based on success and the incoming, proceeds that could potentially make? I love to sit down and talk with Cody and just kind of pick his brain on, is this just out of the love, or is this actually, in your opinion, a good business deal?
Right, absolutely. And that's a great question. I'm curious to know the answer to that. Let me ask you, when it comes to Texas Tech, they have the number 1 portal class, spent top 5 most money on their portal class. Them in the Big 12 headed into next year, who knows? I mean, obviously, I think BYU is going to be pretty loaded along with Arizona State. How do you think Texas Tech fares in going into next season, spending all this money, bringing in all these different players?
I think you got to get the quarterback right. Jimbo tried this at A&M, and he couldn't get quarterback fixed. A lot of it was injury, but he had a rotational, door at quarterback, and it didn't really work out. Even Miami last year spent a lot of money.
Right.
They were better. They didn't win it. Ohio State spent the most money. They didn't go for a high-profile quarterback, but they got the quarterback selection right with Walker Howard, who ended up being perfect for that team this past year. So I'm not sure who Texas Tech transfer quarterback is off the top of my head, but I don't play a big role in it.
They have Bayron Morton, who played against Colorado last year. I believe he's staying there, so they retained their quarterback from last year.
I remember him. He had some big games, but he actually turned the ball over a little bit a couple of times. I've seen him too. So to me, that's what will determine their ceiling.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And we'll discuss Texas Tech and more this offseason, but they're making noise and spend a lot of money, bringing in a lot of different people, and keep retaining their general manager in the process. So interesting developments.